The brand continues to make subtle changes to this model, making this black and red version for 2025 probably the closest to the original yet. And I know people hate when I say that, but facts are facts. Sorry. Hey, what's going on, guys? My name's Chris. Welcome back to the official WearTesters.com YouTube channel. Today we got a detailed look and breakdown on the 2025 edition of the Air Jordan 12 black and red, or bread, depending on who you ask. These guys right here released via reserve exclusively over at the Foot Locker location in Union Square for All-Star Weekend in San Francisco. And I will say that out of all of the brand activations that were going on around the city, and there were a ton of them, besides Jordan brands, which were technically not in the city, they were over in Alameda and Oakland, Foot Locker by far probably had the best activation period. Bro, it was dope. But these guys right here were one of the shoes that they released early exclusively, and I will say that after comparing them to my 2016 version, the 2023 version, and the original version, these really are the closest thing to the original that they've put out so far, and it's really cool to see. They did it silently too. They didn't even like express that this is as close to the original as possible or any of that stuff. They just straight up dropped them. So one of those things that they've done to kind of like treat this shoe like it was coming back out from 1997 is releasing it in this original style box. Obviously, we've seen these boxes before. These are those brown Nike boxes with the red trim and stuff like that. Normally, when we see a Jordan Retro release in this box, it's still paying homage to that time frame, but there's a giant Jumpman right here. And on this one, they got a swoosh on there because that's how they were originally. Now, as for the shoe itself, this colorway originally released in 1997. It's basically tied to the flu game. So MJ during the regular season would alternate between the taxis and the white and reds. And then in the playoffs, he would alternate between the black and red and the playoff colorway. But while he was wearing these, there's a famous image of Pippen walking him off the basketball court because he was dehydrated. He was supposedly throwing up all over the place, like in between timeouts and quarters and things like that. I don't know if he had the Hershey squirts. I'm assuming he did, but I'm not really sure. I wasn't there. I did watch the game on TV live as it happened, and it was amazing. I remember watching him play sick and thinking to myself, man, this dude's amazing. It wouldn't be until the last dance that we would get confirmation that it was actually food poisoning and not the flu. He ate that pizza by himself. The story's kind of infamous at this point. There were rumblings of it though way back in the day. It's just that we didn't have the internet. So that kind of was just like a rumor. But anyways, that's what these guys are really tied to. The shoe itself has re-released in this colorway. They actually were one of the first retros of the model in 2004, and they retroed in this makeup right here. And I actually had those. They were really nice. They were way different than the original, but it was actually a really nice retro. They did pay homage to the actual flu game with this colorway with a model dubbed the Air Jordan 12 Flu Games. And I believe that was in 2009 if I'm not mistaken. But that shoe was a little bit different because everything on the upper as far as the black is concerned was all nubuck. The red accents were still red and they were still leather. They were just a really, really, really dark red. And then there was this infamous sick face logo right here on the heel as well as on the tongue. And that told the story of him having the flu because he was sick. But outside of the 1997 original, the shoe has not been re-released that many times. Again, there's that 2003, 2004 version. There was the 2009 version, even though you don't really consider that these because they were totally different. Then there was this 2016 version and now the 2025 edition. So again, it's not a colorway that we've seen often, but it's one of the best ones. Now, are they a perfect retro? Are they a one for one compared to the original? Of course they're not. There's still some things that I wish would be fixed, but overall, when you compare them to the original, they look fucking great. Like, I can't really complain. Starting off with the outsole, it looks fantastic. You got herringbone traction pods just where they should be. I always have loved this little Jumpman right there at the tip of the toe. It's one of my favorite features on the outsole of the Jumpman Pro as well. The texture, when I compare it to the original, is damn near identical. It's really weird. I did not think that they'd be able to replicate something like that, and they really did it well. On top of that, the coloration or the sheen, basically the look of it, looks damn near the same too. Not only is it translucent the way that it's supposed to be, but it has this kind of wet look to it, and I think that it looks fantastic. This is the way that the original black and red 11s outsole looked. That's actually something that I did call out in the Bread Velvet review, where that shoe featured the wet look to the outsole. It makes the red really pop, versus the last version of the black and red or playoff, whatever you want to call them, breads that did release, and the outsole was just kind of dull, you know what I mean? So it's just interesting to see that they are, again, really paying attention to detail, and And somebody like me, where I've seen these shoes since their original releases, to finally see them come out where you're like, yo, that right there, that's almost it. I think that that's dope, and you got to give them credit for it. One of the very small things that I think that they've been working on that you can kind of see right now with this version is actually the back heel shape, as well as the collar area. The originals have a really unique design where they're very curved, whereas all of these retros, they just, I don't know what it is, but they just don't look like that. I don't know why, but like they look real funny in comparison. This new version, when you compare it to them, they're not perfect or anything, but you could see that they're trying to curve it. Like, it's interesting that they're going there. Again, it's not perfect, but it, man, they're trying. And same thing with that collar. Like, that collar is straight as an arrow. It's almost there, and it looks really, really good. One thing that I will say that they just haven't gotten is actually the stitch work here. Like, it's still got the same exact stitching on there. You got the Jumpman on the tongue, the 2-3 listed down the middle, but the original is just really thick, especially the font. The Jumpman 2, he's a big boy up there. And this one, it's just thin, you know what I mean? So is that something that's a deal breaker? Not to me. I just thought that it was interesting that, like, that was one of those things that they did not get right. You do have a carbon fiber shank plate, and it will look something like this. This right here is actually a retro Air Jordan 12 shank and things like that. I believe the Taxi originals had a beefier shank plate where it went more into the toe, but then the rest of the shank plates look more like this. It's very weird because there was some sort of change order in between the first colorway and the rest of them. Now, as far as cushion is concerned, they got a Phylon midsole, and despite how the shoe feels, this is the midsole right here. This is very thin. It's like, what, maybe 1/4 of an inch off the floor at the toe. You got a little bit more in the heel, maybe about 1/2 inch, and that's it. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's not a really thick midsole. It's very interesting because the shoe itself does not feel like this. Like, they feel high off the floor, and they feel very clunky and stiff to start. It's not because of the midsole, it's actually because of everything else that they've done. It's that really thick outsole coupled with that shank plate right there. It's just those two things make this shoe kind of like a boot feel, which is actually one of the inspirations that went into designing this thing. They were designed after a women's dress boot, as well as the Rising Sun flag, which a lot of people don't like, so they don't ever really reference that anymore. But either way, inside of that Phylon midsole is one of these bad boys. This one is the original from my 97 version, but this is a full-length Zoom Air unit, and they are in all of the retros as well. And fun fact, the Air Jordan 12 is the first model within the Air Jordan Signature series to feature Zoom Air in it. So I think that's really cool. Another fun fact is the very first Jumpman product, which was the Jordan Jumpman Pro, featured the same exact tech. This is the midsole for the Jumpman Pro, and you can see they've got the same exact shank and the same exact tech specs, and they were way cheaper. On top of that is this insole right here. This is a Dream Cell. This is not like the original. I will say that this is not bad for when you're comparing it to the original. The original is a weird kind of insole. Which we will just not show.
Oops, sorry.
Now, the upper on these guys is very nice. I'm not gonna say that it's premium or anything like that. It's definitely not like the original, but it is pretty close. The way that it looks is actually very close. I like this material right here, especially compared to the last version where it was heavily tumbled. And that's not how the original shoe was. The original shoe is actually very textured, but it's not tumbled. It's just got like that really nice, light looking kind of like PU coating on there. It gives the leather a more natural look and everything like that, and they've really replicated that quite well on this version right here. It's also kind of soft to the touch, so again, it feels good. It's actually EVA backed, which is pretty cool. These and the 13s are both the same in that sense, where the triangle pattern that you see on the panel of the 13s, as well as this ribbed panel right here, they have EVA between the leather and the liner that you see inside the shoe, and it's what gives it its like puffy look and feel. The textured stripes right here are basically featuring a lizard embossed print, kind of a callback to something like the Air Jordan 2 where things were elegant. Some people like to call it a basketball texture and stuff like that, but the way that I remember reading it, it was I believe stated to be like a lizard embossed print or a reptile embossed print, whichever one. And they look pretty good, no complaints there. Sometimes on some of the retros, this texture could be like very faint, and on mine, it's nice and thick, it's nice and heavy. The top two eyelets right here are not metal like they were on the original, and on this version, they're actually painted a matte black. That actually is different from the original, which is quite interesting. The originals looked more like this version where they were almost glossy. So they were black, they just weren't matte black. The rear of the shoe is by far my favorite of the Air Jordan 12. I love the heel tab. I love the way that it looks. I love how it says Jordan, quality inspired by the greatest player ever. And then that beautiful 23 right there on the back booty. Man, Just gets me every time. Now, as far as fit is concerned, they do fit true to size. Whatever you typically wear, that is what I would recommend. Whatever you purchased in your white and reds, same exact thing. So if you went down half a size or you went up half a size, go for it. All I'm gonna say is that true to size is what I went with. True to size works best for me. And with that being said, what is today's question of the day?
Give us your opinion on what feels so off about the NBA today in many people's eyes. Is it all the three-point shooting, the flopping, the blatant traveling they let go?
That is a loaded question. Where should I start? I personally think that it started with the rule changes, and I do know and understand that there have been rule changes throughout the history of the league. I get that. But for me, the game that I grew up playing, the game that I grew up watching, the game that I was trained to play is no longer, that's not how you play the game anymore. You know what I mean? And I'm not talking about the threes. I'm talking about the gather steps and the extra things and all that stuff. I understand what the NBA is going for. They're going for that wow factor. They really want the offensive game to sell the product. You know what I'm saying? They want fans to be like, damn, this is the craziest I've ever seen. And it's doing the opposite. And if they would pay attention to the fans and what they're saying, maybe they would backtrack a little bit. But instead they're doubling down. And they're like, no, these are the rules. And I'm just like, bro, Allen Iverson didn't have to do any of this and he was amazing. MJ didn't have to do any of this amazing. Tim Hardaway, none of this. White chocolate, none of this. So for me, that's where things started to change. It was allowing the travel to happen. The flops and stuff like that, they do change the rules, or they have at least, to try and stop that. They don't even want you to jump into players anymore to try to create contact on jump shots. So I think that those are all fine. I don't think that it's three-point shooting. I do think that some teams try to utilize a three-point shot more than they should. I do understand their strategy from a percentage standpoint, when we're talking about math, but when we're talking about playing the game, that's not the easiest way to do it. You know what I mean? I think that it's quite dumb to jack up the most shots in a game, because percentage wise, the more you shoot, the more you'll make. I think the number one problem for me though, and this is just something that I personally see, is that I feel like there's a huge, massive lack of respect and passion for the game itself. And this goes from the players all the way up to the top. Obviously these owners are chasing money. I can't really blame them for that, even though they're all billionaires. So it's how much money do you need, dude? And then it goes all the way down to the players, man. These guys are f***ing divas the moment that they step onto the hardwood. You know what I'm saying? And it's just I don't know. It's weird to me. These guys are getting such high contracts. Michael Jordan never got a contract like any of these guys. And I'm talking about rookies.
And it became personal with me.
I just wish that the needing to earn your paycheck, and obviously you have to earn your max contract, but you still get a pretty big contract when you come into the league and stuff. So it's different. And I understand the whole revenue share thing too. Players Association has really worked hard to make sure that they're getting their cut out of the billionaires owners. You know what I'm saying? They're making sure that they get some of that piece of that pie too, because they are the ones generating the revenue. I'm just saying is that however passionate you are about collecting the money, you should be about putting on a show. You are being paid to play a fucking game. And I see people that stream Fortnite play that game with more passion than anybody on an NBA floor, and that's not a good thing. So I think that that's what it is. I think there's a massive lack of passion. There is an influx of greed, and I mean, that's corporate America for you. You know what I mean? It's not just in the NBA, it's everywhere. But with all that being said, what is it for you that has turned you off of the NBA? Sound off below and let us know. And additionally, let us know what you think about the 2025 edition of the Air Jordan 12 in the black and red, AKA flu game color. Sound off below, let us know. Thank you so much for hanging out with us. We really appreciate it. We will catch you guys in the next one. So until then, y'all have a good one.